Good Monday morning to all of you social media friends who are joining us today in this episode of Flipping That House. And as you can tell from at least what I'm wearing today, happy fall, everyone. The seasons have changed, and I think my co-host got the same memo as well. He's donning his jacket as well. So happy fall to all of you. For today's episode, we've got a guest, a social connection of mine, who we are going to bring into the conversation later in the second half of this episode to talk about something called 1031 exchanges. This is absolutely a must hear, a must watch, a must save for those of you who are, property investors, whether you are virgin investors doing it for the first time, or whether you are experienced ones. So all of that being said, let me welcome my co-host Catalin into the conversation. But before we do, because it's fall, right? Because we want to hear from him as to what's going on in the business of real estate. Let's give him a rip-roaring crowd applause and cheer. Got to get his energy up. Let's do it, everyone. Here we go. Give him the rock star welcome that he deserves. So, Catalin, how are you, man?
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy October. Happy, fall. I'm wearing my knitted sweater from, my mom made it for me. So I'm super proud of it. And it's super nice, super warm, super cozy. I'm very grateful to be here with you, William. I'm super excited to hear about, from our guests about the 1031 exchanges. I know it's a hot subject for some of the investors that we work with. Even for myself, I'm selling a portfolio, and I've been noodling with it and talking to my accountant on how to strategize and getting ready for when I sell it, to make sure that I don't pay more to Uncle Sam than I have to, right? So it's very important and very the subject is very near and dear to me. So very grateful to be here. Lots of good stuff, lots of amazing things happening, and super excited to again, as always, bring as much value as possible to our viewers and help them in their real estate adventures as best as possible.
Absolutely. So you and I lead off this way, Catalin, which is let me dribble and pass the ball back to you so that you can lead in to talk about what is the current market looking like as far as real estate is concerned.
Great question. So, I was just talking to a couple of clients of mine that are getting ready to list their properties, and we were talking about timing in the market. We are, seeing a bit of a slowdown, and especially, before, I would say we have a short window before Thanksgiving where, the market is still moving and there's still buyers out there ready to rock and roll. But in my experience and based on the numbers that we see and the trends after Thanksgiving, all the way through end of January, the market takes a bit of a big slowdown, and if not a big halt, especially because Chicago winters are really tough at the times. Nobody wants to move during 2-3 feet of snow or negative 15 degrees outside, and also everybody's going to plan their skiing vacations, their family trips, and holiday preparations. So if you are in the market to buy right now, this is a good time for you because there's properties on the market that are accumulating time on the market, meaning it's more of a buyer's leverage, buyer's advantage. You can negotiate more and get a better deal. And if you're looking to sell your property, jump now. Now is the time. Do not wait longer. You have a short window before Thanksgiving. Otherwise, I would highly suggest holding the property until February and considering listing it in February, so you start back into the spring market and get the most for your property. So that's what's happening in my market, in the real
Okay.
estate market.
So would you say, even with, the season changing, things kind of shifting gears a little bit, right now, though, in the greater Chicagoland area, it's still absolutely a seller's market because inventory is still tight, or are we seeing more of a balanced market?
I would say it's more of a balanced market, William. So inventory is very short. Depends on the area you're looking at. So if we're looking in the suburbs, North Shore area, it's still extremely hot. There's still multiple offers. People are still fighting to get properties. In the Chicago proper area, we're seeing a little bit more of a balancing and a more normal market where people don't have to go in and fight 8 different offers, multiple offers, give their firstborn to win a property, and anything like that. So we're seeing a little bit of a balancing.
That's good. A balanced market is always a healthier market. Let's talk about this now, Catalin. When you are working with your clients that really have the intention of flipping a property, as a real estate broker professional, do you engage those clients in a different way? Maybe with some tweaks and whatnot, with how you help them write a contract, the contingencies within the contract, as opposed to a John and Jane Doe buying a home to live in. Is there a difference?
Huge difference, Bill, because we are looking at at a traditional consumer. When they buy a property, they 99% of the time they'll probably use a traditional lender. Somebody like you that's going to broker the deal will find a bank or some sort of lender, and they'll use probably a 30-year fixed, 15-year fixed product, conventional loan, Fannie Mae, or an FHA loan. They're navigate the traditional route, right? So on the traditional route, we have the traditional contingencies. When I work with an investor, 99% of the time, those investors are going to use what's called private money. Private money, hard money lenders, we've all heard about them. Those lending institutions move a lot faster and have less regulations, and less underwriting requirements than a traditional lender, right? So a lot of times my investors, because and I'm an investor too, we need to make sure that I always say it, in a flip you make money when you buy. So when you buy, you make sure you need to get the best deal possible. So a lot of times our contracts are written as cash with mortgage option, right? So we close traditionally with the lenders that we use. We can close as fast as 2 weeks. Sometimes the title doesn't move that fast as the lender can move, right? So we, most of our contracts are presented as basically cash deals, because the only thing that is per se left is the lender to appraise the property. But even their appraiser is somebody from Chicago, somebody local, somebody that knows exactly what they know before we go into under contract, if the deal can be done or not. So we are 99% sure that we can get the lending done. We've never had issues, and the way we write those offers, we write them extremely aggressive. I personally waive inspection. I waive mortgage contingencies. I waive, everything. I go in because I have to give the seller something, right? I'm going to give them a lower price than the market, but I'm going to give them the certainty that they're going to sell, and I'm going to give them the certainty that, a lot of people are selling. I'm actually working on a deal right now where the homeowner is extremely stressed out. They moved into the place 4 years ago, and they tried to do the remodeling themselves. And they started demoing, and they stopped there, and they've been living in a basically construction zone for 4 years. They're
Oh no.
exhausted. They actually make fantastic money. They just want to be out, and they're like, Catalin, just take it, fix it, and be gone. Right? I just want to be done.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm coming in with absolutely zero contingencies, and I'm offering them I have to offer them a price that makes sense to me too, so I can make some profits, and they understand, because their pain point is not making the most money of it. Is just they just want to be done. So
Yeah.
when I write the contract, I waive almost all contingencies.
That makes sense. And that's why I felt it important in today's episode to ask you that question, given your experience on both sides of the fence, as a broker professional representing your investor clients, but also someone who's in the trenches, flipping properties, acquiring new ones to flip as well. And for those of you watching us today, what Catalin has shared with you is absolutely spot on. There is a difference when you're sourcing perhaps mortgage money for a flip, as opposed to a property that you're going to occupy, whether it's your primary home or second home. And as Catalin touched on, I love how you described it, which is there's less hassle during the financing process, sourcing private money, hard money. Yes, it's true. It's absolutely true, because for those of you who are first time flippers, or you've done this repeatedly, you know this already. The strength of what you can access as far as private money is based on a couple of simple things. The strength of your credit profile, which, by the way, in layman's terms, is nothing more than your experience level, right? Have you been able to execute this type of short-term flip process quickly, get to the outcome quickly, without a lot of bruising and bleeding, if you will? So, Catalin, thanks for sharing all of those great tips with us. As we now move to bringing our guest into the conversation, let's also give him, from his fan base, people, a warm welcome. And his fan base are all of these people that you see here. Yes, it's all of his fan base, Gen X, Gen Z, people who are looking to build and increase their wealth. So let's welcome Christopher Clepp into the conversation today. Christopher,
thanks for
how
having
are
me.
you?
Thanks for having me here today, guys.
You're very welcome. So my first question is this. I think I remember this when you and I reconnected a few months ago, before you joined us today. You yourself, you know a lot about real estate, right? You're an investor, owner, landlord of some properties.
Yeah. So my real estate journey began several years ago when we were trying to figure out a house for ourselves. We weren't sure on exactly where we were going to end up. My wife really wanted us to move out of an apartment before we had children, and so we did not want to deal with a condo and the HO and an HOA. When she heard about that, that sounded like her own personal nightmare. So we bought an investment property in the Avondale neighborhood of Chicago. So we bought a 3-unit building there, and we still own that. And we moved into our single family in the Albany Park neighborhood here almost 3 years ago to the day.
Wow, Catalin, that sounds like your journey as well, right?
Yes. Same, Christopher, right here. My wife and I, we did a delayed gratification. Basically, we always wanted a single family home with a nice white picket fence, but I convinced my wife to buy a 3-flat before, so we bought a 3-flat, house hacked. We still have that one, and then moved into our single family home after we bought a couple more 3-flats using the 5% down payment. So really cool. Love the house hacking and also building wealth through real estate. So
yeah, absolutely. So Chris, when we reconnected through a quick call 2 months ago, the reason why I reached out to you is because I gave you some social applause and hand claps. You might remember that with this video that you pushed out to social media talking about 1031 exchanges. And you might recall, not only did I drop my posted comments about, oh, great video, comprehensive, spot on. And for that reason, that's why I asked, hey, would you care to, can you share your time to do a live guest appearance in one of our episodes, this episode today? So with that said, with 1031 exchanges, this is now for all of you watching us who are somewhat experienced investors, right? You've been in the process of buying investment property. You're gonna pick up another one. You're gonna sell one to pick up third one, et cetera, et cetera. So, Chris, talk to that audience about what usually can be their obstacles executing that 1031 exchange. Is it that of, in the business of real estate, time is of the essence? Is that not paying attention to the time that you must do that kind of stuff? Talk to us.
Yeah, so I think 1031 exchanges, and as Catalin mentioned very early, right, is not about not paying any pennies that you don't have to Uncle Sam, right? And so me working as a financial advisor, my clients, I always tell them they're going to pay every penny that they have to, and we're going to work on no pennies that they don't have to pay. And so a 1031 exchange can be a great way to defer taxes, because we want to, as part of an overall financial plan, we want to be able to help them manage their assets, everything that they have going on in life, but also we want to manage the taxes so that they don't pay too much and that they pay it at the most opportune times for them. And that may be paying it today on a sale, or it may be deferring it later on down the road to a more opportune time. And we want to be able to do that. And a 1031 exchange can be a wonderful tool to defer the taxes. So I want to make sure everybody hears, not eliminate the taxes, right? It's deferring the taxes to pay them at a better time for you. And so if you're doing it, one of the biggest things that you need to understand is that there are some hard and fast time limits when it comes to doing a 1031 exchange, right? So will you be able to clearly identify and document a replacement property within 45 days of the sale of your relinquished property, right? And so we need to understand this counts weekends and holidays, right? So this isn't 45 business days, it's holidays and weekends. So you need to be able to identify it in writing. And so a lot of people will use what's called a qualified intermediary. I highly recommend you use a qualified intermediary if you're going to do a complex transaction like a 1031 exchange, because there are a lot of ways to mess this up. And once you mess them up, there's not a lot of good cures or any cures in most of the case going through there, right? Because the qualified intermediary is going to help you with that. But not only do you have that 45-day timeline that you have to pay attention to, but you also must close that next sale in 180 days from you relinquishing the property. And so that 45 days and that 180-day timeline are going contemporaneously, right? You have the 45 days, and then you have another 135 days after that 45-day period to close on that sale. That means that if you're doing this as a person, your entity, if you're doing it as an entity, that they are able to transact and close the sale within 180 days. And if there's some financing involved as part of this, that could be a problem. If the spending on inspections, all sorts of things, all of the normal hiccups that you guys are very familiar with, and your audience is very familiar with in closing real estate transactions. You need to make sure that those are all taken care of, and that you have contingencies to be able to take care of all of this, right? And so, there's a few other things you can identify: multiple properties, depending on the site, so you have some backups there for you as well. So, there's a lot of complexity to doing this. And then also, if you're doing it for your houses, right? I know obviously the title of our show here is Flipping That House. Flipping that, it may work if you're planning on holding these properties, right? But if you're just buying, selling, 1031 exchange is typically not appropriate, because you do have to hold these properties for an appropriate period of time and have needed them for an investment purpose to be able to do that. Actually, the funny thing is, the single family house we bought was done through someone who had someone who did many redevelopments in the Chicagoland area, had rented it out for a couple years.
Oh, wow.
And it just so happened, I knew they wanted to complete a 1031 exchange. I didn't know it until after we just put in our opening bid, because they took our opening bid immediately, because we offered to close very quickly for them, because they needed to get on and get on with their 1031 exchange that they already had lined up. So it was, I'm also the beneficiary of a 1031 exchange in my own personal life. But there's a lot of things to think about here, a lot of technicalities, and we also need to make sure that you're not letting the tax tail wag the dog. So we can defer the taxes. Eventually that's going to come due if you're eventually going to cash out of this later. So keep that type of thing in mind as you're going forward. But it can be an excellent tool for you to be able to manage your taxes. And that's something, as a financial advisor, we're always working with our clients, is to manage their taxes and pay them at the appropriate times, and not, as Catalin said, pay a penny too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything in its due time. Cliche number 2. The first one is time is of the essence. For our social media audience, and of course yours, let me bring up a link to Chris's business and his point of presence. How can you find Christopher Clepp? Simply follow this URL link that you see here. There's so much information that Chris can share with all of you. So do spend the time to look at all of this information that Chris is sharing with you today. And perhaps if it's not something that you can benefit from today, at least maybe someone in your sphere of influence. So Catalin, what do you think about what Chris has shared with us? It's, what I learned is time is of the essence. You got to work with the right parties, like you touched upon. Not missing a heartbeat, waive certain contingencies. Why get yourself bogged down in a lengthy process? And at the end of the day, what I think we both heard is you're not going to escape paying taxes, but maybe not more than you really need to, right?
Absolutely. And Christopher, thanks for sharing. And I'm a big believer in having the right team by your side whenever you do anything complex, right? The 1031 exchange program is not something that, you do it on your own. This is not a DIY. And I heard it loud and clear. And I'm a big believer that if you want to have a successful 1031 exchange, you need to surround yourself with the right people that can get you to the finish line, because way too many times, and clearly the everything was written in such way to make it a little difficult that not everybody can do it. But thanks for sharing. I'm a big believer in doing complex things with the right coaches and the right people behind me. So appreciate you, and I'm glad to have you in my network toolbox to refer to clients or anybody that could benefit from your guidance.
Well, nice segue.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Like having that team to work with you. There's so many people that can help you, particularly if you're running a business or have another job, and real estate is not your sole source of income. Needing that team there to be able to really help you do that heavy lifting to be successful in the real estate investing world is absolutely particular. And that's a great real estate agent, great sources of financing. All of those pieces play a huge role in making it a success.
Absolutely, guys. Well said. So as we wrap up today's episode of Flipping That House, how can you reach out to this team of experts, team of service providers, audience members, to get you to the outcome that you want in a timely fashion, not paying more than necessary to Uncle Sam to help you get to your next chapter of wealth building? All you need to do is scan the QR codes that you see here to start a conversation with Catalin. And certainly, if along the way you need access to financing, whether it be traditional, private money, scan the QR code that you see next to me. And then as we shared with you from Chris already, you can certainly start a conversation with him as to how you can get to your next chapter of building your wealth. So guys, thank you for sharing your time with me and our joint audiences today. Catalin, I will see you in the next episode of Flipping That House, 4 weeks out.
Much love, guys. Thank you. Have an amazing day.
Thank you.